Good morning, everybody. Actually, good evening. The sun is just setting. It is so beautiful out. I thought I would ride my bike through this little park near my new apartment slash house, apartment and house, and make a little video, but it was so buggy by the river. There's a really cute little river and the mosquitoes were out and I was getting flashbacks from the trail and like, oh, I don't have any bug spray on or anything, so I'm gonna find a different place to film this video. Anyways, I hope you guys are all doing well. I thought I would talk about my trail regrets, all the things that I think I kind of did wrong that I wish I would have done differently. You know, hindsight's 20/20. But I don't know. I did the best I could with what I had and everything that was in front of me. Oh my goodness, let me show you this section of river. Ooh, like how gorgeous. I feel so lucky to live in this town. Yay, Colorado. Yeah, so I try not to, you know, dwell too much on things of the past or like making mistakes or things that I regret. I think you guys probably can tell that from my videos. I tend to have a lot of hope, which I actually think I'm gonna make a video about that soon. But yeah, I think that this video we're gonna talk about the things that I do regret and that I would do differently now that I finished the trail. Now all I need to do is find a spot to kind of sit down and do this. Okay, this park has a nice tree right here. Ooh, backpack will make the bike fall over. Okay, so let's talk about some of these regrets I have, so that way you can maybe not make the same mistakes I did. I hiked February 12th to June 13th. So it was primarily a winter hike. I feel like most of you know this. Hopefully you've like watched the daily videos I posted. So if you want to see my regrets up close and personal, you can check those out and probably guess which things I really regret about my through hike. So I'm just gonna go over 5. So this will be a pretty quick video. I decided to get the journal out where I wrote this all down. But the first thing that I regret is not taking more zeros in the second half. In the first half of the trail, I took a lot, like quite a few zeros. That was mostly because of like weather kicking me off trail. I think I had my one and only double zero was because of like the freezing rainstorm that passed through the Grayson Highlands. Freezing rain when I was crossing those, which was like such terrible timing because it was so much worse in the high elevation. So I took a double zero there, which I kind of like felt restless about, and you know, I didn't really feel like I needed a double zero yet. And so things like that happened at the during the first half of the trail, and I think that I didn't realize how good it was for my body that like, oh, well, the weather is like forcing me to take this zero right now. Like there was a windstorm and there was a rain, like there was just different things that like I ended up taking zeros because of. And I think like during those zeros I was kind of like restless and feeling like, oh, I should be hiking today, like, and feeling weird about it. But in hindsight, those zeros were really good for my body because my body held up so much better in the first half of the trail. The second half of the trail, all like the entire state of, I think like most of Pennsylvania, like the entire month of April, I didn't take 1 zero, and that was a mistake. I mean, I'm glad I did it in a sense. Like I don't fully regret it because I wanted to push myself. I wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see if I could like upload the videos, like, and keep my pace on trail, or like take Neros instead of zeros. So I tried it and I did push myself, but I think that brings me, my body just didn't hold up as well. So regret number 1 is not taking enough zeros in the second half of the trail. That regret leads me to my second regret, which is not taking like the swelling of my knees more seriously. My knees got really swollen, I think like sometime after Pennsylvania, or maybe in Pennsylvania, and I just kind of was pretty casual about it, and I was like, oh, you know, like I'll ice them in town and like they'll get better, you know. And then I didn't really ice them and I didn't stretch enough, and I just like, they just kept being swollen, and I just kept hiking, and I think that led to me having swollen knees the rest of the trail. So my second regret is not taking that more seriously from the very start. Like I should have just taken a double zero the second they were swollen, and if that wasn't enough, a triple zero. And iced right away and stretched right away, and started like some of the better habits that I developed after it was probably a little too late for my knees. My third regret is eating too much sugar in the second half of the trail. I think the first half of the trail I was hiking bigger mile days, like 25s and 30s, like pretty often. And my mileage dropped, like especially in the Northeast when it got really hard, and I was going really slow. So I just like wasn't burning enough, like as many calories as I was kind of eating. And I think the sugar made my swelling and inflammation worse in my knees. So I definitely think that I just ate too much sugar. I wish that I like kept up. I stopped bringing the broccoli slaw. I was bringing that to like add to my ramen and add like a fresh broccoli slaw, and it would stay good like while it was cold on the trail. But I stopped bringing that because there were really hot sections sometimes. Like sometimes it was like 90 degrees and it was like my broccoli slaw is like going bad in my backpack and being gross. So I kind of stopped supplementing that. I stopped kind of like adding those fresh things that made me feel a little healthier, and just supplemented with like sugary junk food like honey buns. So that one's kind of tough, but I do regret eating too much sugar. Okay, my fourth regret is not sending for my tent in the northern states. We started getting a lot more rain. Like there were like, it was like a heat wave and then rainy weather wave. It's just, like the weather started getting kind of crazy, but in the northern states, it got buggier, and then the rain just got pretty bad, and like my tarp was pretty uncomfortable, and it made me like really, I mean, it wasn't too uncomfortable. It was more just like in my head, it was like, oh, like just less comfortable than a tent. And I could have had my sister send my tent, but I just like, I don't know, I just kept putting it off and I didn't do it. And thankfully I ended up staying in Leffy's tent in New Hampshire and Maine when the shelters weren't available and it was too buggy for the shelters. He had a 2-person tent and he let me use his tent, so that was really nice. So I think that like before that time I could have used my tent. I don't regret having my tarp like at the beginning of the trail. I'm really glad I used it and I started with that. Like I rarely slept in my tarp because the shelters were always empty. So I just like didn't even have to worry about it, I guess. Yeah, I regret not having my tent on me for that section. And my fifth regret, and the last one for this video, because it's getting kind of buggy and the sun's going down, so this is definitely a short video, but the last one is not taking an on-trail zero. I've never done that before, and I think that that would have been a really, really cool experience, especially like on a beautiful day when it wasn't too buggy. I think that like, those are hard to plan for though, you know, like it's hard to know like, oh, this is going to be a great spot, the weather's going to be great, and there's going to be no bugs. Because those are few and far between. But it still would have been cool to try a little harder to plan an on-trail zero. I feel like Coyote was kind of good at that. Like, he wouldn't take on-trail zeros. He might have, actually. I should ask him if he ever took one. But he definitely took like really short days on trail. And he just did a good job of listening to his body, I think, in that way. And just being like, well, I need an on-trail zero. And then he would take one. And so anyways, I regret not doing that for myself and making it a priority to have a really, really slow, like still day in the woods on the Appalachian Trail. I'm getting kind of bit up by the mosquitoes, but they're glorious compared to Maine. So, yeah, so I was kind of surprised. Like, I was trying to write this list, like, and I thought that I would be able to come up with a bunch of them, but I just don't really think in regrets like that often. Like, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake, and like, I just don't try to dwell on it, or I try not to dwell on it, and so it is interesting though to see that like the regrets that I did kind of come up with are all surrounding zeros. I just didn't take enough. I could have taken more in so many different ways and for so many different reasons. But if I would have, I might have like taken a little more time, and if I would have taken a little more time, I might be stuck like in all this like really, really crazy weather that everyone is getting now and getting kicked off trail. I don't know if you guys know about kind of what's been going on the past few weeks on the Appalachian Trail, but the weather just got so bad. All the rivers were like swollen, like, and they just got worse and worse after we finished. And so a lot of hikers are getting pushed off trail or having to skip sections. And yeah, I feel like I'm really lucky that I did push myself and I started early, and I don't know, in so many ways it's like, oh, I should have taken more time and enjoyed it more and gone slower and taken care of my body. And on the other hand, I might have gotten kicked off if I didn't go, if I didn't do, I don't know. It's just, it's so hard to like know, I don't know exactly what the right thing would have been. What I do know is that I'm extraordinarily grateful to have made it from Springer Mountain in Georgia all the way to Mount Katahdin in Maine in one stretch in just about 4 months. It is incredible that my body was able to hold up, and my mind and my spirit and everything. So let me know if you have any regrets from your Appalachian Trail through hike. Let me know if you think that I should regret anything else. I definitely want to talk about like the pros and cons of winter through hiking, because I think my experience was pretty different than if I started a little later in the summer or like spring when everyone else starts in the bubble. So I do want to talk about that in another video. But I think that's going to be it for this one. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.